Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today I wanted to share some of the odd things in the wine industry that only wine lovers will understand. I guess, like in every industry, there are certain things people do or say that might seem odd or unclear to everyone else. And while some see wine simply as an intoxicating beverage, for us wine lovers, it is a wonderful drink that opens doors to both art and science, and maybe even turns some of us into mildly obsessed people. So today I wanted to talk about a few things that only wine people seem to understand and most likely would not even blink an eye at. We wine lovers feel absolutely comfortable spitting wine out. In fact, I would argue that everyone should feel absolutely comfortable doing it. Not a single wine tasting setting is complete without a spittoon. And spittoons come in all shapes, sizes, colors, and materials. For me, it is often just a used coffee cup or beer mug like this. Some people even manage to do it so gracefully with great aiming skill, they could probably knock an apple off someone's head. I am not one of those people. I have heard many argue against spitting, saying that you can't fully taste the wine if you do. But I would say the opposite. Yes, I can. I have learned to let the wine go deep into my throat before I spit. I also pay attention, I take notes, and then I spit. In fact, I would go as far as to say that you cannot truly appreciate wine unless you spit. Maybe for the first 10 wines you are fine, but not for the last batch. Tasting wine takes focus, and that focus disappears when you are intoxicated. So yes, I'm all about spitting, be it very expensive wine or be it rare bottle, especially in a professional setting. Let's talk about describing wine. For some people, those descriptors wine lovers use when talking about wine's acidity or tannins might sound a bit posh or make no sense at all. Like describing acidity as bright. Some say that it makes no sense because bright is a color descriptor. But honestly, we use metaphors all the time. We might say that person is bright or that was a bright idea. Why we cannot say that acidity is bright? After all, it means something vivid, bold, and expressive. One of my friends once read that acidity in wine can also be described as crescendo. And now, every time he tastes Chenin Blanc, he says that it has a crescendo acidity. While that might not make a lot of sense to everyone, wine lovers usually don't even blink at that kind of language. Now, while acidity is an actual taste, sourness, there is another element in wine that is more like a feeling or a texture. It's the tannins. That's why I often find it very useful to describe tannins using fabric-like terms. For example, velvety, rough, coarse, silky, or light. And yes, I know that for a non-wine people, these descriptors might seem odd or confusing. Take the simple term dry wine. I have had so many people ask me, how can wine be dry? Well, it just means that wine has no or has very little residual sugar. So indeed, sometimes we forget how strange the wine language can sound to others. Some call it terroir, some call it sense of place or typicity. But you will not find many true wine lovers who don't want to know which village or even which specific plot the wine in their glass is from. And furthermore, they will listen with excitement, take notes, and ask follow-up questions like how thin the topsoil is and what the mother rock is. Sometimes it even goes to extremes. If a wine is not sourced from a small winemaking region or single vineyard, we are quick to deem it unacceptable. Yes, I'm looking at some of the comments here on my own YouTube channel. I too am a believer in terroir, but I do not think it is given. If we are going to obsess over somewhereness, then we also need to take responsibility for preserving that place. Because if you exploit your terroir, if you strip the land of everything alive, basically everything that makes it possible to produce a terroir-driven wine, then we have nothing. And this is one thing I want to say clearly and loudly. Terroir is not a mailing address. It is the complex relationship between the unique aspects of soil, climate, winds, precipitation patterns, and the surrounding environment, be it forest, river, sea, or ocean. And for that terroir to continue producing that amazing wine, it must be preserved. So I invite every single wine lover to care about preserving the terroir just as much as they care where their wine is coming from. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Wine lovers always want to taste their wine blind. Ha! I am not one of those wine lovers. Maybe I feel too much pressure, or maybe it reminds me more of school than actual wine enjoyment. But whenever I'm dining with my wine friends, more often than not, evening starts with the same question. Do we drink our wines blind? My answer is usually no. I actually believe that we can learn more about wine when we don't taste it blind. And I think we have touched upon this subject with Andrew Jefford in some of my long-form videos, which I will link in the description below. Too often, it is not even a question. People just bring their bottles wrapped in foil or covered, and suddenly you are forced to be part of the Guess the Wine game, whether you like it or not. And I know that some people argue that blind tasting removes all the prejudice. And I agree that when you are assessing quality, that can be very important. But wine is deeply embedded in its people, its place of origin, its grape varieties, and its winemaking. The simplest way to describe it is, I am happy when sherry smells like sherry, but I would never want any other wine to smell like sherry. So yes, context matters. It's like wanting Roquefort cheese to have blue mold all over it, but absolutely not wanting any mold on your Comté. Removing the context can oftentimes strip away a whole lot of understanding of the wine. And honestly, I do not think I have ever seen another food or drink category so completely obsessed with blind tasting as the wine world. It's not just wine tasting, you know. 15 years ago, anyone too polite to tell me otherwise would end up listening to my thoughts on certain wine topics, be it rootstock, grape varieties, or clones. Some of these topics were so complex, they needed an introduction, on top of introduction, on top of another introduction, which I was always happy to provide. Once a colleague of mine told me that these topics are only fascinating to us wine people, and that others probably feel the same way we do when someone starts talking to us about programming or computing. I said, nah, wine is so much more exciting. But now, 15 years later, I have toned things down. And I try my best to not bore people around me with wine trivia that I personally find absolutely mind-blowing. But whenever I meet fellow wine lovers, I'm always super happy to share my thoughts and discoveries. Like the fact that Saccharomyces cerevisiae most likely evolved its super efficient alcohol production as a survival strategy to get rid of other yeast strains that could compete for the food source such as sugar. And in fact is not good, but most likely very aggressive yeast strain. But I guess that urge to share is not unique to us wine people. It is human wanting to share our passions with others, having sense of community. It is something truly special. I know it is the best way I learn, through discussions and conversations. That's why I love being here so much. So thank you for being there and listening to what I have to say about wine. Let me know in the comments what you think are some of the odd things only wine lovers will understand. Thank you for watching, and make sure to watch this video next where I talk about my 5 unpopular wine opinions.